Welcome back to the podcast. In today's episode, I'm joined by debut fantasy author Christy Ann Jones to celebrate the release of her enchanting novel, Theodora's Tea Shop. In this episode, Christy shares her journey from a child captivated by magic and storytelling to becoming a published author. We dive into the years of rewriting, querying and refining her craft, the exciting journey to finding an agent and landing a publishing deal, and the inspiration behind the beautifully imagined world of Theodora's Tea Shop. Christy also opens up about balancing writing with content creation, staying authentic in an increasingly AI-driven world, and the resilience it takes to keep believing in your story through rejection and setbacks. So whether you're a fantasy reader, an aspiring author, or someone who loves hearing the stories behind the books, this conversation is full of creativity, encouragement, and valuable insights into the publishing journey. So let's jump in and meet Christy Ann Jones. Hello, Christy. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I'm very excited to have you and hear your story.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
So before we step into your journey, would you like to give yourself a brief introduction to all the audience and listeners out there?
Yeah, sure. So hello, my name is Christy Ann Jones and I am a debut author. My novel, Theodora's Tea Shop, is coming out on July 28th this year. It's a fantasy novel. It's written for adults. It's very atmospheric and emotional, and it has cozy moments and dark moments. And yeah, it's my favorite thing that I've ever written. I'm really, really passionate about writing magical stories. And the fact that this is my first book coming out is incredibly exciting.
What a great name and great cover as well. And we'll go into that because it's very it had tea in the thing and I was like, I'm there. And then I saw the design and I loved the cover. So I'm interested actually to hear a little about how that design happened. But before we get into that, I always love to start where your journey began. So let's kind of take it all the way back. And if we think about from a writing perspective, had that always been something that you loved doing? Like how was that incorporated into your childhood or your teenage years?
Yeah, sure. So it started with being obsessed with stories of magic. And so I remember when I was really little, I didn't enjoy reading. Like I kind of struggled with it. I have a lot of markers for dyslexia, but have never actually been tested. Mm-hmm. And then I fell in love with a series of very magical books when I was 6 or 7 years old. And then I just became obsessed with like witches and magic schools and all of that kind of thing. And just sort of from there, I loved my local library, my school library, public library. It was just such a beautiful place of abundance for me. And so from age 5, I was just voraciously reading what was in the local library, what I could carry home in my backpack. The first story I remember writing in my own time was kind of a rip-off of the first Lemony Snicket book. Yes. It was a 16-page scroll of basically what was a fundamentally fan fiction, but I didn't really think of it that way. Beyond that, quite early, I remember, so in Australia we have the NAPLAN tests, the standardized tests, and it comes around every 2 years. And there was a story writing component. I always scored quite well for that. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm okay at this. And that kind of sort of encouraged me along a bit. And then from there, have always really latched onto other worlds, portal fantasies, anything magical and whimsical and doors to other places. And I didn't even read my first adult novel until I was 16. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of when I fell in love with language. And I was in my English class. And it was actually One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Okay. And not the kind of thing I would necessarily gravitate towards now, 1960s novel, very realistic. That book is also really misogynistic and racist, is my main point. But there are bits of the language in there where I was like, oh my God, that's so clever. I didn't realize you could do that. And so from that point started really getting into prose and the sort of more craft elements behind writing and all figurative language and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I have just became increasingly more interested in every facet of it.
Yeah, wow. And so from that component then, because I was doing a little bit of research on you. So you were an English teacher, correct?
Oh, yeah. So for a brief period of time, I taught English in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah. So never is my career.
Well, I think that kind of incorporates your writing and your fascination around kind of literature and language because, ultimately it's all woven into that, right? And then going to Japan, which is an amazing country, and having the opportunity to do that. I mean, from when you started, doing maybe some of those shorter stories and leaning into a little bit more around the depths of writing, how did your career develop from there? What were some of those milestones, or those components that you incorporated to then keep traveling in that direction?
A great question. The novel that I probably learnt the most from, or the story that I learnt the most from early on was, I came up with the concept for a novel when I was 16. And I kept writing that story until I was about 24 years old.
Oh, wow.
So it was a long time. And it was like a really flawed premise and a really flawed like structure and design of a story. So when I queried it, it didn't go anywhere. But so I was kind of stuck on that one story. I would write a draft, throw it out, start again, rewrite it. I must have rewritten that book 7 or 8 times, start to finish. And I have a very like iterative process where if something's not working, I throw it out and start again entirely.
Okay.
Under the idea that like anything good is going to stick in my memory and anything superfluous is going to disappear into the ether. That I spent so long on the same story is probably regrettable, because I think I could have learnt faster if I had been writing different narrative structures. But the other sort of big one early on for me, so I was getting published as a travel writer from when I was about 21. So like going through the editing process for that was good. But the big early one was that I got a short story published in VoiceWorks.
Okay.
So for anyone who is based in Australia who doesn't know, VoiceWorks is a publication for under 25-year-olds. They have amazing opportunities for writers and also for editors as well, for anyone under the age of 25. And I got a short story published there, and I went through the editing process with one of the editors, and it was this very iterative editing process. And I learned so much from it. It was my first time working with an editor, like for a creative writing piece. And it just like the way I got to see another person's view on my work, the way we arranged everything, I found that really, really helpful. So that was a short story got published in VoiceWorks because they're a magazine.
Yeah.
And so that was just the process of getting a short story published in the magazine.
Did anything kind of transpire from that? Like, or did it kind of just keep pushing you in the right direction?
I mean, from my writing, like it pushed me in the right direction, definitely. But personally, because of my opportunity with VoiceWorks, I ended up meeting someone who ended up becoming one of my best friends. So he was also in the same email chain as me. So I owe VoiceWorks a great deal, basically.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good link to share about there, because sometimes when people are starting out and they are kind of early in their career, they're a little bit unsure of where to go, what to do, what's going to help them. There's so many, not necessarily competitions, but opportunities to work with these companies and submit short stories, etc. Now you just need to know where to find them, because they're not always available, or you might not come across it if you're not in that network. So thank you for sharing that. And I think it's a great success story for you as well, right? To say that you don't have to have a lot of experience, you just need to have the determination and the inspiration to put your words down on paper.
Yeah, I think so for sure.
Because I feel everyone's life journey takes them to where they are now. And that could be something very small that you did, or could be something huge. But you just mentioned there you're a travel writer. Yeah. And I did see that, you had a big YouTube channel where you did your book reviews and you did your vlogs and your illustrations. How did that kind of grow, and how has that supported you in your journey as well?
When I was in high school, I uploaded my first video. I was watching a lot of painting videos because I'm also an illustrator. I just love making things. So I'd been sort of loosely uploading painting videos for fun in my spare time. And then I remember I was sitting in, I think it was second year of university, because I was doing a marketing degree, and I was like, because being practical, and then shoving all the English subjects on. I live in Adelaide. I was like, oh, there's not that many jobs in the arts. And then the marketing job I got ended up being in the arts anyway. So we got there. But sitting in a lecture hall, and my lecturer saying, they were talking about 50 Shades of Grey, and the marketing machine behind 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. And they were talking about the fact that so many writers publish really good books, but because they don't have this marketing machine, or because they don't have a platform, they'll never get seen by anyone. And I was like, okay, interesting. I can edit videos. Maybe I could start building a platform for myself. Initially, I also wanted to work in publishing. I was like, oh, maybe I could be like a marketer. I could do video editing stuff. This would be a good portfolio piece. In uni, I had no money to buy books for reading, and so I couldn't be a proper YouTuber, a booktuber to begin with, because booktubers were just reading volumes, like
I
book hauls,
know.
and like I could not afford that. I was doing little bits and pieces around painting, and I thought, okay, if I could make an audience of like 5,000, that would be really helpful. Like that was like my goal back then. And then I started editing videos. I started connecting with people. I started doing cinematography, adjacent vlogs, like, and I just fell in love with it. I love video editing as a medium. I love music. I love like the visual composition. I love color grading. Like I'm such a nerd for like camera equipment. So it's just every facet of that I adore. And then the channel grew. And then I moved to Japan and I vlogged about my experience of living in Japan. And then the channel grew, and then I came home, and then it kept going. And then I was working in the arts. COVID hit, left that job, started working in tech, more redundancies. And then by that time I was like, could just make YouTube my job at this point.
Yeah.
And I did.
Wow. So I have a question for you on then. What do you think was different about your content and how it grew? Because you had 240,000 subscribers. Like that's a lot of subscribers. So what do you think it was about your content or how you were kind of putting your work out there that enticed those subscribers and those viewers?
The thing with my channel, and I lamented this a lot early on, is that I've never been strategic enough about it. Like it was like I really, if I wanted to be in the book space, I should have just made content about books.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to. I wanted to make videos about Japan, and I wanted to make videos about painting and creativity and stuff. The things I really care about, I think that comes through. And I think that excitement, I think people like, but also there is that kind of, I suppose, ex-marketer in the back of my brain who goes, okay, well, I can see this writing routine video did well. I should maybe do some more of those.
Yeah.
I can see that people are really interested in like the sort of minutiae of what writers do on a day-to-day basis, like what their like rituals and stuff are. So if people are interested in that, and then I suppose it's kind of like how I've, for example, try out an author's writing routine and package it up as like, I tried this person's writing routine. But what I'm actually doing in the vlog is working on my novel. So I was like, how can I make this interesting? It's that kind of problem solving piece of working out how to make things interesting for people, but also still making what you want to make, finding the value that you can sort of uniquely add.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. Because how do you think it's changed in the world we are in today? Because obviously now AI is coming into it. There's a lot of noise around that. I think if you try and follow a trend, when you get to that trend, it's already gone. I loved what you were just saying there about like, it was something that you had a passion for and that you loved, and that came through. Because I feel like sometimes people are just chasing what other people are doing. And so it's not necessarily authentic, but how do you think that's kind of evolved? How do you stay relevant nowadays?
If you're making content for people, you're providing value for their lives in some way. And back when I worked in the arts, I worked for a festival, and one of the things I did in my job is I briefly ran these workshops for artists who were like independent artists wanting to try and sell tickets to their shows. And so I've also done like a bunch of workshops trying to teach people about like branding and marketing and stuff. And like the main thing is that like when you have social media, you're not just going to go onto your platform and say, buy this thing, watch me, blah, blah, blah. It's about creating value for people. It's like, what can I give to you? What can I teach you? What can I provide for you? Because if someone is giving you your attention, that's a really valuable thing. And I feel an immense amount of gratitude to the people who have stuck with my channel. Like I've been making YouTube videos for over 10 years, and some of those people have been there that whole time. And I suppose it's like kind of, how do I not waste your time when you're watching my video? I want to provide stuff for you, entertainment or comfort or information or something like that. And the conversation around AI, like it kills me because I year before last year maybe, there was this particular company, and this is probably more common now, but there was this particular company that had basically stolen a bunch of YouTube videos.
Wow.
Like their data set got leaked for the YouTube videos that they were using to train their AI. And it was a list of about 2,000 channels and how many of their videos have been stolen and put into this algorithm or into the machine learning for the AI. And my channel was one of them.
Oh, wow.
And I am still upset about it because it was basically the kind of thing where you could have gone to their platform and typed in, give me a cozy writing vlog.
Yeah.
And you would have seen something that would have looked a lot like my apartment. and
Yeah.
me.
It's scary, isn't it?
Horrifying. And it's
Yeah.
just this kind of idea of like having put your heart and soul into something like a YouTube channel
Mm.
where the AdSense actually pays you very badly.
Yes.
Very badly. So like it's so for me with AI, it's like I just have to ignore it. Just
Mm.
obviously I don't use it, like just like stay away. And
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a real resurgence of people valuing handcrafted things. Like we
Yes.
kind of have a second arts and crafts movement going on right now.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
just I find myself gravitating towards physical media a lot at the moment.
Yeah, I love that. And it is scary. I've even heard like even a lot of authors, their work has been copied, and
100%.
it's just, the security around it. You just have to be so careful, even down to like Instagram accounts, like people having to constantly say, oh, someone's stolen this isn't me, this is me. And I think nowadays it's scary because what AI can do, like it can actually create someone that looks exactly like you and sounds like you. That how do you then show that it is really you? It's kind of just
It's stressful.
it is, yeah. And I do feel, especially because I know how much time and effort goes behind like building those accounts and so much of your personal time and commitment as well. It's like just for something like that to come into it and almost take it away. It's like a personal attack, right? It's
Yeah, it is for sure. But I'm trying to tell myself because I don't want to go too into the doom and gloom of it. So I have to believe that we'll put something in place one day to help us stop. Like, you know how like with every sort of like new kind of technology, we've been nervous. Or like you even back at like a novel like Frankenstein, written in like 1818-ish, is fundamentally about fear around technology. It's like we've been here a while. So I have to hope that we'll still keep making cool and interesting things, and we'll keep forging connections, and
100%.
hold on to that.
Do you know what? It's so true. And like, look, AI is evolving rapidly. I think like it's one of those things that you just have to think about, but not think about. And like you said, it's just being authentic, right? And making sure that we contribute and put into the world for the children below us and the children below them to still know that like there's so much love and like passion and creativity in the world that can come from a human being. Because it's so lovely when you're in this kind of industry to have that, and I think you just don't want to lose the creativity from the world.
And I think also just keeping on encouraging, especially like emerging writers or anyone being creative, it's okay if it's difficult. That's the point, actually. Like if you're doing something difficult means you're growing. It means you're learning a skill. Like if you're writing a novel for the first time, you're going to get to the middle and it's going to be horrible. That's just the normal experience. So I think especially living in an increasingly stressful, overwhelming, overstimulating world where algorithms, I know it sounds ironic because I'm a content creator, I make a living on social media, but where algorithms are taking advantage of people, especially people with developing brains, encouraging people, it's okay to do difficult tasks. It's okay for something to take you a long time. You don't need to be excellent at something straight away. It takes 10 years to become a master in any specific thing. Be patient and take that time, and that's okay.
Yeah, very valid point. Very valid point. I always love asking this question. It's probably the perfect time to ask. Like, if you think about the challenges that you've faced, what's kind of been the biggest one that you've had to overcome?
The one that comes to mind immediately, like for my writing, is rejection. There's been so much of it. Like, we writers all talk about rejection and you hear about it, but until you've spent 8 years on a thing, 6 years on a thing, and you're finally sending it out into the world and you really care about it and you're really proud of it, you cannot imagine what it feels like to get a rejection on something like that. Or to sort of have like, especially querying a novel when you're trying to get a literary agent, going on submission to publishers when you're trying to get a book deal. For my writing, I found these things incredibly difficult. There is admittedly an extra layer because I've vlogged everything. So it's like I've had to experience this personally while also managing how I talk about it publicly, filming my reactions to things, which has been an incredibly cathartic experience. But I suppose that kind of like putting your heart and soul into something very vulnerably and then getting smacked down over and over again, and then having to get back up and be like, okay, this is still fun. This is still exciting. Like I'm still jazzed and ready to go on doing this thing.
Yeah. So is that kind of how you've overcome it, because you've had that passion still and you still really love it, that you're like, I'm not willing to give up yet. Like
Well,
I
it's kind of sewn into my DNA at this point. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to be an author since I was 5. I can't
Mm.
really, so it's like, it's kind of an identity piece for me where I like, doesn't matter how many books that I write that get rejected, or now that
Yeah.
I've got a book coming out, if it bombs in sales, I'm just going to keep writing novels. Like that
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
it is just accepting that I'm just here has
Yeah.
been a really good thing.
It's good to know that you're going to still keep going
Yeah.
either way. And so let's just talk about your publication journey, because
Yeah.
you are going to be published by Hachette, which is amazing. Like they're one of the big publishers globally. So how did that come apart? Like, let's talk about the story. Like, how did you, or when did you start creating this story? And like, what was some of the process and timings that it took for you to actually submit or query it?
Basically, yeah, that novel that I came up with when I was a child, that queried that right as the pandemic hit. So I think from memory, I think I started querying it April 2020.
Wow.
Which is great,
Okay.
a fantastic timing for me.
just as COVID
after
happened.
after 8 years, like that's the time to do it. Well, like a month and a bit into COVID. That book failed, and then I suppose, COVID was ongoing, and then it was July that year that I started writing it, where I had the thought of like, what if I wrote a novel that was like similar to House Moving Castle, but it was about 2 women who were friends, like 2 women who like meet each other and they become friends. And I'm really interested in the kind of idea of a person who looks very, very put together on the surface, but then is just a complete mess. And it's my favorite part about House Moving Castle, that you meet Hal and he's like this beautiful wizard in this beautiful world. And then you realize that there could not be a more dysfunctional man alive. It's great. So that was sort of like the initial jumping off point. And I realized I remembered this only a couple of years ago, that when I went to a cafe for a planning day back in 2019, so the previous year, I saw a waitress in a cafe, and that's the woman who ended up being Theodora.
Oh, wow.
Like I just remember seeing this person and I was like, wow, she's really pretty. And like just being like, okay, you're a character in a book.
Yeah.
And every now and then I have that with people where I'm like, okay, you're a person. So I kind of had that. So it's kind of this moment of like picking up pieces. And then I read a nonfiction book called, actually it's sitting behind me, I think. So it's by Richard Feidler and it's called Ghost Empire. And it was about basically Byzantine history. And in Byzantine history, there was this really interesting empress whose name was Theodora, where she had just had this fascinating history where she basically came from nothing. She was the daughter of a bear baiter. She was in the theater. She was an exotic dancer. She did all these things. And she ended up marrying Justinian and becoming the empress of the Byzantine Empire. And this really like influential woman. And so this kind of idea of this person who came from nothing and just built an empire. Yeah. Well, the empire was already there, but ended up being in this really powerful spot. I thought, oh, that's so interesting. Have always loved the name Dot, but Dot and Theodora, the sounds swapped. So Dorothy, Theodora, whereas Dot means something small and Theodora means gift of God. And so it's a large thing. And so it just like, there were just little bits that ended up coming about as the story unfolded. I wrote the book and I threw it out and then I rewrote it and I threw it out and then I rewrote it. And it basically took like, I think it was like 3.5 years before I queried it. Started querying in August of 2023, I think, from memory. I'm trying to remember the timeline. Got my literary agent in December of that year. So it only took 3 or 4 months in the end, which was like excruciating, but actually quite fast. Keeping in mind this is the second time I queried. I queried the other novel and it failed. And then we basically spent the whole of 2024 editing the book. We edited for about 10 months.
Wow.
And then we went on submission. And then it wasn't until the next December, almost a year to the day since I got my literary agent, that we got our book deal, our first offer for the book.
Yeah.
The book then went to auction in February. And what's really exciting is we've like ended up like in an international auction.
Wow.
Which is so cool. Yeah, ended up with Hachette.
So cool.
Very exciting. And now the book's coming out July this year. Long timeline.
Cool. How did you feel when your agent told you that there was an auction going on? And
disbelief.
Yeah.
Because it was I think because you get beaten down over such a long time because you get so many rejections. You're like, maybe this isn't the book. Maybe it's not going to be okay. But I had this funny fixation with the idea of getting an offer on my book I kept picturing me either being on an airplane or stepping onto or off of an airplane.
Wow.
And the reason I had this fixation is because when I moved home to Australia after living in Japan, I was unemployed for like 3 or 4 months. Like it's hard to find jobs in Adelaide in marketing. Like just like, I'm not quite sure right now, but like it was a really tough job market. So I was trying desperately to find a job. And so because I was unemployed, I spent a lot of time at the library. And I read a book by Holly Ringland called The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart, which is a beautiful book. But I was reading about her story, and she got the call from her agent that she got the deal for Alice Hart when she was getting off the airplane from Manchester to Brisbane. And so ever since 2018, I have fixated on this idea. For some reason, I would always picture it like I'm on an airplane, I'm getting off an airplane, I'm getting on an airplane, whatever. I got the offer stepping onto an airplane.
So, oh my God, you've like manifested.
Literally. We went on a holiday to Japan, and we were coming back, and I was feeling pretty flat about the whole thing because we'd gotten rejections. The book had been on submission for a while in America and the UK. Then we went on submission in Australia. And then, the flight home from Adelaide to Melbourne, notification just came up on my phone, and I read it in one go, literally as I was like about to walk down the vestibule to the airplane. And at first, my first thought was like, I can't believe that actually happened.
Oh, such a mate. Yeah. To know that it's going to auction, like that's just another level, right? What do you think? Because you spent a lot of time, because you said you worked on it, you threw it out, and then you spent another 10 months with your agent as well, working on it before you even put it out to submission. What do you think it was about your book that got those publishers really interested?
To be honest with you, I think it's the same thing that got people interested in my YouTube channel. I think it was the vulnerability of it. I think, and it's such a fascinating thing seeing like my work get compared in like similar ways where people loved that elements of it were quite cozy, even though I wouldn't necessarily call it a cozy book. There's a lot of dark things that happen in the book. People really liked the imagery and the descriptions of like the city, the setting. But I think it was the sort of like emotional punches of the book. And the big feedback I've heard again and again is that people really like Dot's character.
Yeah.
And people really like her vulnerability and how like relatable she feels, because she's this very sort of like timid young woman who is very earnest, and she really wants to learn magic, but she sort of struggles socially, where she wants to make friends with people, but she doesn't really know the right thing to say. And she can't really talk to men because she gets really awkward and uncomfortable. And she feels a lot. The feedback I've gotten is that people have quite liked Dot's character.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. And, it's coming out in July, which is phenomenal. Did you have any input in the illustrations on like the cover? I thought you may have done after reading about that. So I'd love to know more about that.
Yeah, so I was really, really lucky. So for most of the time, authors get absolutely no say over anything to do with the cover. It's like everything inside the book is the purview of the author, and everything outside is the purview of the publisher. So, but oh my God, with my publisher, like they have been the most supportive, the most beautiful people, where they've asked my opinion every step of the way.
That's
like
lovely.
The blurb on the book, I wrote the blurb. The brief for the cover designer, I ended up like helping to like suggest most of the stuff for that brief. I saw every ideation on the cover. I specifically said, this is the color scheme I would like. And they went with one of the color schemes that I wanted. There were so many minute little changes that got made. Like it just like, I feel so thankful that they really, really listened to what I wanted with the cover. And one of my main things is that because this book is sometimes being positioned as a cozy fantasy, and again, there are things that are very affirming and cozy in the story, but there are emotional punches. I'm so worried about sucker punching anyone. So I was very firmly like, can we please have a dark color scheme for the cover? Because the title's so whimsical. The title sounds like really like lovely and cute and whimsical, but it's like when I started writing it, I set out to write a gothic story, not a cozy story. The cover is designed by Hazel Lamb, and she's brilliant and so talented. And hilariously, I told you that anecdote about Holly Ringland.
Yes.
Same cover designer for Alice
Oh,
Hart.
wow.
Yeah, so this is beautiful. I need to send Holly an email at some point to be like, hey, you don't know who I am, but
after reading your book and your story, all these things have happened.
Yeah.
Because it's a lovely, and I love all the colours, and I think you're 100% correct. Like, it brings that magical element even just looking at it. Like, it's,
thank you.
I think it's lovely. So about the book then, do you want to give like a brief overview, like a synopsis about the book? And then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that I'm intrigued about as well.
Yeah, for sure. So Theodora's Tea Shop is a 1920s inspired atmospheric adult fantasy novel. It follows two women whose names are Dot and Theodora. And Dot is this very timid young woman from the city. She has a chronic illness. And she went through something when she was 14. And ever since that time, she's like experienced the outcomes of this chronic illness. Her family are not the most pleasant people. And when she's 23 years old, she decides to go off to the city of Aliaster to try and find the witch Theodora because she wants to learn magic. And this is, of course, a country where magic is illegal. However, the witch Theodora, she has many faces. She's an oil painter, a member of parliament, the grand magician to the king. And she's also hiding a lot of secrets. So when Dot and Theodora's worlds collide, a lot of things happen and it kind of dregs up Theodora's dark past. Yeah.
Wow. I can't even imagine how you crafted that story, because I think everyone's very unique, right? The different genres that are out there, but you explaining it then, I'm in awe, because it's just something I would never be able to do. So I think you've done a fantastic job. What's one thing that you absolutely love that you've either got in there, or something kind of about the journey of you creating it? But what's something that you absolutely love about it?
I just love spending time in the world. I think the world is so cool. So it's a bit self-indulgent to say because I made it, but because basically a 1920s inspired setting, and it's a city where like spirits and demons are roaming openly. And so, for example, in the tea shop, there's a spirit whose name is Bellchamber, and he's this very sweet little spirit who's very helpful, and he's a great source of comfort for Dot when she's going through some difficult things. It was so much fun to come up with all the different spirits in the city, where I'm struggling to even just because there was so many, where one of them was the shape of basically a rocky knoll, like a cliff face. And this spirit is playing poker with the king. And although the spirit doesn't have a mouth, you can hear her talk. And she has this deep chuckle, and then the king throws a magic spell at her, and then some of the rock kind of falls away. Or one of the spirits' names is Thistleweight, and she looks kind of like a little bit like a snow monkey, but she's just really grumpy, crotchety old spirit. So that was fun. So coming up with all the different kinds of spirits was really, really cool. But also just spending time in this world. There was a scene where they go and visit a magical post office. Yeah. And just getting to write all of those scenes of what would be the most cool and most magical thing that I could put in here. That was just so joyful. I loved that.
Yeah. How do you come up with a lot of the names? Because I know you spoke about Dot and Theodora, but all the other names that are in there, do they just come to you, or do you have a process?
Great question. So Leo, whose name is Robert Liutprand Lashkari. Liutprand is a name from Byzantine history, which I really wanted to use. And originally, Leo actually had a completely different name in the first 3 or 4 drafts. And I ended up changing it because I didn't like the name anymore. I'm also really interested in people who have a first name but then go by their middle name. Yes. I've always found that fascinating. My partner's grandfather did that. And so I'm always how did you just start being called your middle name?
I know.
Yeah. And so, basically his first name is technically Robert, but he goes by Leo. Rupert was a co-worker's son's name. I was just I love the name Rupert. It's so beautiful. Thistleweight was just fun to say. I like the sound. Yeah. Opal, which is a character that the main characters used to know. I like that opals are unlucky. So there's a basically folklore thing where opals make bad wedding rings. And there's a lot of discourse to say the diamond industry said this because opals were a popular stone to use for wedding engagement rings. But actually it's supposed to be that opals are just hard to work with. But also I think 90-something% of opals in the world come from South Australia. There's another character whose name is Kate, who's a witch. That comes from Hachette. so
Yeah.
the ancient witch.
Yeah.
Just
They're
special
everywhere.
interest,
Yeah.
literally. Yeah,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
that's probably like falls into that inspiration. Like you seem like you just take inspiration from anywhere, really. Like you said, you were in that cafe and you had that waitress and you were like, yeah, I can instantly see her in one of my books. Is that kind of how you create those stories, or where else does your inspiration kind of
I
stem from?
just like a magpie. I'm just like intrigued by shiny things. Like it's just like anything that I think is cool and exciting.
Mm,
Like if I'm reading like a random nonfiction book and I'm like excitedly telling my partner, like info dumping to him, like everything I learned in the book, that's going to end up in something eventually. So
yeah.
I think like if you're a creative person and I think just having the eye for what do I really like? What do I think is really cool? One of the points in the story, because I have an interest in Japan and Japanese politics, and this will be familiar to you because you've read the book. So in Japan, because in the story, a world war happens before the story begins, and the king becomes a ceremonial king. So they're occupied, and then he doesn't have any power. That same thing happened in Japan after 1945. And
Yes.
so I thought it was really interesting how Japan lost the war and then the Americans came in and occupied Japan, but they obviously didn't want to execute the emperor. They thought that Japanese people wouldn't like that. And so they installed a Westminster system politically into Japan. And so that's why Japan now has a prime minister.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had that piece where I was like, oh, that's so fascinating how that worked. And then I kind of had that in my book. And then, the stuff around the Constitution and the article with the magic. And there's so many different things that, I find interesting.
And it's crazy, like all those elements have come together to create that story, and quite complex at times. But what was one of the biggest challenges about writing the book?
I think the rearrangement of the structures. So the first time I wrote the book, I probably overplotted it just a bit too much. Like I had so many elements where I was like, I want this to be a really big, I love a complex plot. Like I love foreshadowing. And there's like, it's complex because there's so many character arcs, but there's also a mystery arc and there's foreshadowing and all these things. So I started off with a quite complex plot. And what I've learned is that I should start with a simple plot because I will naturally make it more complex as I write. Because every time I rewrote the book, I added stuff in. I was like, oh, this is cool. That's cool. And so when I submitted the book to my agent and we started working together, like one of the first questions she asked me in our meeting was, how do you feel about rewriting stuff? And I was like, oh, I've done that heaps. And she was like, good. Because it was just the middle of the story had some problems with the pacing. And so essentially some of the big moments, like there are a couple chapters where multiple big things happen. Those were all separate chapters dragged along throughout the story. And it kind of meant the pacing kind of went up and down in a little bit of a weird way. And so that 10 months was basically spent with me rearranging the story, which is difficult in and of itself, but the story has so much foreshadowing. And the logic of the world was already intricately done. And so it was what took a long time was restitching everything and making sure that I wasn't creating plot holes and making sure that all the foreshadowing and the logic made sense.
Yes.
And so I'm so proud of the pacing of the story as it is now. I think it rises well. I'm really happy with it. But that just kind of logic work of stitching and unstitching was the biggest thing I learned how to do with the editing of this. And now with my next novel, I'm so pleased because the pacing's just good on the first go. I learned.
You've learned from it, right? Which is great. Like
which
that's
is
what you want to do every time.
Sure. It was hard, but I learned from it. So that's good.
Yeah. I love that. So where can people find you? Because you've got a big following on Instagram. What's your Instagram tag?
Yeah, so Instagram is my name, which is Christy Ann Jones. YouTube, same exact thing. YouTube and Instagram are my two.
Amazing. And it's released in July. Specific date in July?
July 28th.
July 28th. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So what are we, just under 2 months now? Not long to wait.
Just under 2 months. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And have you got any events happening, or can people find out where you may be doing some book events at all?
There will be events, but nothing has been announced just yet. So Adelaide people should definitely keep an eye out for that week. But aside from that, I don't think I'm allowed to say anything yet.
And how are you going to celebrate when it comes out into the world? Have you got something in mind that you're going to do?
I mean, I haven't. Like, I've heard this, that like what you spend so many years writing a book and then the day your book actually comes out, it's like, oh, well, nothing happened. There's no fanfare. It's just like on shelves. So I don't have a plan yet. I'll probably have dinner with my partner.
Yeah.
My best friend is going to be flying in from interstate and staying with us for the something that may happen in Adelaide.
Yes.
So she'll be here. So we'll probably do like a nice dinner or something.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, you should definitely do something to celebrate.
I agree.
You just think about
thing.
everything that's in the background that's gone into it, and now it's packaged lovely and going out into the world for everyone to read. And obviously it sounds like you work on your second novel, so we won't talk about that now, but like that can be a sequel to it. So yeah, lovely. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you. I feel like I've got so many more questions, but I want to kind of keep it there because I think, it's showcasing who you are and the story and the journey that you've kind of been on to get to, become a debut author. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Christy.
Yeah, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome anytime.